Yep.
So here it is. This is me, Hanna Hrabarska. And yeah, maybe you ask me any initial question.
Yes. So give us some background how you started and how long you've been there and what you've been covering, as we see your work.
So I'm Ukrainian and I lived in Ukraine for my entire life. And I worked as a photographer for the last 15 years almost already, I think. And since the full-scale invasion began, I left Ukraine, so I'm not in Ukraine. I'm in the Netherlands. And the body of work that I've done is a story about my mother, how we fled the war together, and how we became war refugees together. And basically, the story is showing her story, but we are in this together, of course. So yeah, I will be showing this work that became a book, and I also have my book with me, of course. So I
Great.
will show you the book as well. But yeah, should I start from the beginning or?
Yes. Start from the beginning. How did you and your mom end up in the Netherlands?
It was completely random. When we left, we didn't know where to go, so we were just, yeah, on the go. And first we went to Uzhgorod, and I will be telling it. So yeah, the project is called My Mom Wants to Go Back Home, and I say it's ongoing because also based on the title, it cannot be finished before she actually ends up home, of course. But I already made a book out of it, so for me now I closed this work, and I will reopen it in the case when my mom goes to back home. I will of course follow her, and then maybe I will continue. But for now, I'm not working on this book anymore. I'm not working on the project anymore. But I started shooting this project when we were on the train from our native city, from my native city, Kryvyi Rih, to Uzhgorod. And it was few days after the full-scale invasion started, because first I was in Kiev, my mom was in Kryvyi Rih, and in the first day of the war, I went to pick her up because I couldn't imagine living without her. I mean, leaving Ukraine. And a few days we spent just in Kryvyi Rih because it was quiet there. But then all the threats started coming, and announcements starting coming from all kind of sources that there is like rockets flying towards our city. There is like a big convoy of military vehicles is coming, and I said, okay, this is time to go. So we just jumped out of bed, I would say, and left. And they started shooting
So,
it.
so your mom was ready to go. She didn't have any trepidation. I want to stay. I want to stay. She said, "Let's
No, of
go."
course. No, she for the first few days we thought we're not gonna go, because for the first few days it was also impossible to persuade her. But then after a few days, I it was almost an ultimatum from my side, and they said, okay, if you want me to survive, then we have to go, because I'm obviously not going without you. And if you're not going, then we're gonna stay and die together here, you know? So it was like a ultimatum from my side, but it worked. So finally we left. And for me, it was never a question of staying or going, because I was always thinking that in the case of a real threat to my life, to life of my loved ones, I will definitely escape the situation when I can be threatened, or I can be, yeah, somehow my health or my life could be under danger. So that's why for me it was obvious that we have to leave. But when we were in a train, and we took the train to Uzhgorod, it was the last train from Kryvyi Rih that was not an evacuation train, so we had to buy tickets.
Mm.
And so we kind of escaped before the real mass on the railway began, etc., etc. It was already a lot of people in our train without tickets, just like, sleeping in the hallways, but it was still a train where you could buy tickets, at least. And then
Right.
all other trains were already with no tickets, and everybody could just go. So the train took us to Uzhhorod, and early in the morning, I don't know if you know the geography of Ukraine, but Uzhhorod, it's a Transcarpathian region, and it's behind the mountains. It's behind the Carpathian Mountains. So it's a very beautiful scenery when you cross the mountains. It's usually early morning, and you wake up, and it's like really beautiful outside of the window. And when we were physically behind the mountains, I felt a relief. I thought, okay, it's probably a safe place. Somehow I thought that mountains could somehow protect me. And that
Right.
was the moment when I could actually pick up my camera and start taking photos.
Right.
So this was the first photo that I took that morning. And in the project, there is a lot of repetitive photos where I show the journey. And this is the
Right.
first morning of our journey. It's Carpathian Mountains behind our window. And from there, also it's like a big memory for me from childhood, because when
Mhm.
you travel there, it's always so exciting, you're happy to travel, but this was completely different context. It was completely same kind of view
Right.
behind the window, but completely different context. So it was also quite interesting on an emotional level.
And is your mother someone who's easily shares her emotions, what she was feeling looking out the window as well?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it because we were still pretty much in shock, of course. And I think that
Mhm.
both of us were trying to protect each other from being hurt even more.
Okay.
Because of course, when you say that, oh my God, I'm feeling so horrible, the other one also feels horrible for you. So we were trying
Right.
to really just take it quietly, and yeah, we didn't talk that much, I think.
Always with the hope that we'll go back soon.
Yes, of course. When we were leaving, we didn't know that it will take so long for us, that we thought maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. Because when I left Kiev, I only took 4 pieces of clothes with me. And that's what I brought to Amsterdam with me. And when I was trying to buy something for myself while being on the road, I felt that I don't really need anything or don't want anything, It was completely like in this state of, well, let's just go and everything else is not necessary. Everything else is not important. It is what it is. Here is my luggage. It's empty, but it's fine.
Right.
So yeah. And then our journey, as our journey proceeded, our life outside of home have started, of course. So here I show some pictures of my mother in Uzhhorod, where we first stayed for a few days. And I was just like taking pictures randomly, It was, I didn't see this work as a project or anything. I was just taking pictures of whatever was going on for myself and for memory. And also because taking pictures was the only certainty that I could have in this time of like complete uncertainty. Did you want to say something?
No, I was going to say, so how did you find the place?
So we found a place through my friend, and it's basically a place of her mother's colleague.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was already quite hard to find a place in Uzhgorod because many people from Kyiv, for example, they went to Uzhgorod, to Lviv, to all these cities, and it was already quite full. So here, there are no pictures of, there are almost no pictures of me in the book, but in this presentation, I collected also some images that were not published. So this one, for example, it's my mom. While I was busy checking the news, my mom, she took a camera and she took a picture of me, which I think is really good.
It's wonderful. Does she get a credit in the book?
She certainly does, of
Okay,
course.
good.
Also, it was already on the streets of Uzhgorod, you could already see that something is going on, even though Uzhgorod was still living the same life, and there were no even any air radars, any, like, we didn't hear anything, we didn't feel anything. Everything was open, like all the cafes, all the restaurants, everything was open. But for example, on the street there was people making nets, making masking nets, and
Yeah, yeah.
when I took a photo, one of the women, she approached me. She's like, "Oh, are you a spy? Are you this? Are you that? How dare you
Um,
taking pictures?" So people were really scared, I would say. But of course, I told her that there is nothing to worry about. But and I'm not, and I also told her that I'm not gonna even publish it anywhere. But she was already quite worried. But I think it's really interesting picture because it also shows the involvement of people, of kids, everyone was involved at least somehow.
mm.
um
And of course, it's all women because the men are getting ready to fight, right?
well, I would not say that it was the case in the first week in Uzhgorod, at least, or in yeah, there were men and women equally, like, on
Yeah.
streets.
Okay.
It's just, I think women are more kind of responsive to this kind of activities.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why it's mostly women. Yeah.
Okay.
There is no demographic background of this image at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And this, for example, this is one of the pictures that I will come back to it later. But I thought in the book it's also very important to show how beautiful Ukraine is, because many people still
Yeah.
see Ukraine as something like post-Soviet, very industrial, poor, etc., etc. And I decided that, well, I have to show people abroad as well how beautiful our cities are, actually. And also I thought it's interesting because it could be perceived as something like Amsterdamish, and we ended up in Amsterdam, where there are all the canals and river, the big river in the city. And we also started our journey from the place where there was a big river. So I thought
And
it's
Hannah, when do you think, like, when did it happen for you? This could be a collection. This could be a book. How far along were you?
Yeah, it was not far. When we arrived to Uzhgorod, I just posted few pictures in my Instagram, saying that, well, we are on the road and da 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 da. So here we go. So it was just like an informational post for my friends. I was
Yeah.
not I was not thinking about any documentary project or anything. But I started receiving a lot of response, not only from my friends, but from all around the world, basically saying that, well, we read about Ukraine in news and we know what's going on, but it's in news, it's covered in a very specific way. There is bombing, there is destruction, there is this and that. But people were telling me that they could connect with my story on a different level because it's a family and everybody has a family. And this is the side of the war that is not in news. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then it motivated me to keep shooting, keep posting the images. And then I was approached by a few really big news outlets from abroad, and they wrote they wrote big articles and interviews with me and with this work. And then it also kind of motivated me to keep taking pictures of this story. And then it just grew. It was just like progressing naturally because we were moving from here to here, and
It took a life of its own.
exactly. It was not me working on this project, but it was like project going on, and I just could kind of take pictures of it, and that's it.
Yeah,
So
and what family did you leave behind? Any brothers or father or any of that?
I have a brother in Kryvyi Rih, in our native city. So it's my mom's son and his wife, and they are waiting for a baby now.
Ah,
But
great.
the whole family is in Kryvyi Rih basically. But my father's side of the family, they are from Crimea, so we stopped any connection with them in 2014, basically. So
Ah,
I'm not even aware of like what's going on, because in 2014 they were sending us horrible messages, and I thought that that's it. So
ah,
together with
okay.
Crimea, I lost my father's side of the family.
Ah,
So,
that's yeah. Okay.
so basically, this is all the stuff that I had with me. It's freshly washed in Uzhgorod, and you can see everything I had clothes-wise. I mean, I had my camera, I had my laptop, but I didn't have any clothes. So just for a little, yeah, just for understanding how we left, and obviously we left like that because I thought I will come back in 1 week or so, because it was completely unimaginable that the war will be going on. And yeah, I think I was very naive, and I would even say delusional. So yeah, but I was taking pictures of the smallest things. This is Hirkin. I don't know if you're aware of who he is, but he's like a big, big personality in Donetsk-Luhansk war. Well,
Right.
since 2014, he played a big role, and he was the one who is guilty of hitting MH17. So he's like one of the ideologists of the mess that Russia created in 2014 in Donetsk, Luhansk regions. And he was giving comments. So I was having dinner and watching for his video, and I thought it would be interesting to take photo of it. But honestly, sometimes when I look at these photos from the very beginning of our journey, I can't even remember that there was something. If I didn't take these photos, it would be completely forgotten even by me.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, there are a few pictures of my mom where she's really sad, and this is the first image when she's crying in the book, and this is after she talked to her son by phone, and then she was crying, and then I took a picture of her, and I asked her uh, if I can, yeah, if I can. Well, when I was publishing things in my Instagram, I didn't think that it would be something more than just information for my friends. But then when I was asked by these media outlets if they can publish our photos, my photos, then I asked my mom if she doesn't mind, and she said, yeah, I trust you, do whatever you want. So that also encouraged me to actually feel free in taking pictures of her, even in quite vulnerable moments, because I also think it's important. Otherwise, it would not, it would be just like one side of the story, I think. So, and this is when we were in Uzhgorod, there was not much going on, and the city was, I mean, it was really nice to be there because everything was open, and it was completely crazy how in news you read the horrible things about like what's going on all around Ukraine, but in the same time in Uzhgorod nothing is going on, and you can go to a nice cafe and have a nice pastry with a nice coffee. You know, you can hang out at street till very late. Everything is like taxi is running, everything is running, public transportation is running. And in like there were many people from Kyiv there, and I had lunch with one of my friends from Kyiv, and she said, well, you can just calm down because you already did the minimum for your safety because you're here. And then it kind of struck me, and I said, no, I don't want to do a minimum, I want to do a maximum. So the next morning we crossed the border, and this is my mom waiting for the taxi to go to the border. And this is her in a taxi. And this image is very important for the story because this is the last image that I took. This is the last image of Ukraine that I took, and through the taxi window. And in my book, I not didn't only publish the pictures of my mother, but I also included 10 of my own diary entries that I wrote during the first year of full-scale invasion. And I talk about this picture in this one of the diary entries, but to enhance the feeling of this image, you know, this is basically image of Ukraine left behind. We also, well, I'm not sure if it's possible to see, like, yeah, I have to, wait. Have to remove the blur. Yeah, I removed the blur. So we also placed the same image, but in the inverted color, printed in
Okay.
silver. So
Yeah, okay.
depends on how you look at it from the in front of the light. You can see it more or less clearly. It's like a memory, like if
Yeah.
memories that can fade, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I
So,
thought it's
so yeah. So Hannah, as you take that last photograph, is that one of those crystallizing moments for you and your mom? Like, we hope to come back, we may not come back. We're now refugees.
Well, I think I realized that we are now refugees only in like 2 hours later when we took a train from Košice, which is in Slovakia, because we crossed the border with Slovakia. So we took a train to Budapest, and the controller, he came to check our tickets, and he looked at us and he said, are you refugees? And I'm like, no. And he said, are you Ukrainians? And I said, yes. And then he didn't even check tickets. He just looked like I had our passports in my hands, and my mom was sleeping, and he looked at passports just on the cover, and he didn't ask anything. He just went further. And that was the moment when I realized that, well, probably we are refugees now.
Mm.
So I was not thinking about it while crossing the border, but this guy from yeah, the controller, he made me think about it. So yeah, these are the people who are approaching the border. But what is funny about this image is, as I told you, that I will come back to the beautiful picture of Uzhgorod. So sometimes when I talk to people about my book and I show them the book, and they say, and they see this picture and I say, this picture is very important for me. And they say, this is a home this is the home that you left behind. This is a house where you lived. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is maybe a house for a goat or for a sheep, you know? So that's why I think it's important also to talk to people about Ukraine, because otherwise people would think that, you know, it's so bad that
Yeah,
people live in such houses. And
yeah.
it's not once when I heard it. And I think
Yeah, I'm sure.
it's very funny on one hand, but on other hand, yeah, it's a little bit it's a little bit weird to even have to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
These are homes, yeah.
And if we go further, yeah, again, I put a lot of pictures in this presentation, but this is a little bit of atmosphere while we are
Yeah.
waiting on a row on this. We arrived to Košice. It was like a place where you wait for your train or where you decide where you go, la la la. So they are helping with documents. So I showed a little bit of atmosphere, but this pictures I never published them because I thought, well, there are some people that you see, and I'm not sure if these people would want to be published somewhere. So this is the train where I was asked if we were refugees, and then we arrived to Budapest, and it was our first stop, first home abroad, where we spent 1 week. My other friend from Budapest, Anna, she connected us with an amazing couple, Peter and Eva, and we stayed 1 week in their apartment. They have beautiful, like really big kind of museum-like apartment, and they gave us a room, so we were staying there. And
And Hannah, give us a sense of how your mom is doing now, in these moments.
well, we were still really, really lost, honestly. It's like my mom, because she didn't want to leave, she she was taking everything like with a big skepticism. And for example,
Mhm.
when we arrived and she saw that there are 5 floors to get to the apartment, she was like, "Oh my God, I can't do it. I'm not gonna go." And I'm like, no, you can go, you can do it, la la la. But then my mom, she's very friendly and she's a very nice and optimistic person. So she immediately made friends with our hosts. And
Yeah.
then when we were leaving, she was very upset because she wanted to stay longer with them. She really loved them and they loved her. So I also think that for her, it was kind of yeah, it was kind of adventure, I would even say, because she lived in the same city for 63 years, and she
Mm.
always, well, she never she traveled. I mean, it's not like she never left Ukraine. She traveled, she been all around the world, but I don't think that she would expect such a big change in her life, you know?
Mhm.
And when we had to leave, of course, it was also because it was my initiative. For her, yeah, it was, I think, also a feeling of a loss of control. Because
Mhm.
of course, when the person doesn't speak English, when the person doesn't know how to communicate, etc., it's very hard to
Yeah.
navigate your new life. And of course, she depends on me. And in the very beginning, it was like not clear for how long it will be, and we were not used to it yet.
Yeah.
So every day there were little challenges. But in general, I would say, do you know that Ukrainian women, we always collect glass jars?
To preserve food.
Yes, to preserve food.
Yeah.
So when we were in Budapest, my mom, she started collecting the jars. And I'm like, why are you doing it? And she said, oh yeah, maybe we need to preserve food. I'm like, we're not gonna preserve food in these jars. We are not taking them further on our journey, and we are not sending them back to Ukraine. So why are you doing it? But imagine during the first weeks of the war, my mom, she started collecting the glass jars. So I think
But 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 that's a habit, right? I mean, you don't just stop that in a moment. I understand your not frustration. I understand how charming that is, but that's a habit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like for example, for me, I was kind of completely lost in a way, and I really didn't know what's next in a way. But and for me, it was like day-to-day decision. I was not thinking, oh, maybe I should buy new jeans because what I'm gonna wear, la 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 la, you know. But for
Yeah,
her, it was like, oh, let's collect these jars because maybe like half a year later we'll preserve some food. And I'm like, you know,
yeah. That's super. How, if I can ask, how old is your mom?
she's now 72, but she was 69 when we were leaving.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, these are some pictures of Budapest. All of them are un like a little bit unclear because I think, yeah, it was just like my state of being unclear. And then well, it was also very interesting because when we were in Budapest, two of my very close friends, they were passing by the city. One was a couple, well, both of them are my close friends, but I talk about them as a one. But one couple, they were picking up someone from Kharkiv because it's their neighbors that in their building, their house was completely destroyed and they could leave. And the idea was that my friends, they drive from Germany because they already were in Germany when the war, when the full-scale invasion started, they were in Germany already. So they came to Budapest to kind of change them on in a car to help them to
Okay.
drive. And other friend, also from our very close circle, she's originally from Mariupol, and Mariupol was under siege. It was already occupied, and her family was in the occupied Mariupol, and there was no connection with them. So, and she was in Kiev region. Also, some days she spent under occupation, but then she could actually leave from Kiev region to Kiev and then abroad. So all of us suddenly met in Budapest,
Wow.
and it was also very, yeah, very emotional, very interesting moment for me. Yeah, because it was completely mind-blowing, you know, how you and your friends kind of connected on certain level that you even end up in the same place when you fleeing the war, you
Yeah.
know? And
How
when
crazy.
it's completely crazy. And also when we figured out that all of us are in the same place spontaneously, I said, I will buy everyone, how is it called? You see, I already forgot because I quit drinking completely, but the orange drink, the beautiful orange.
Aperol Spritz,
Yes,
Campari?
Aperol Spritz. So
Okay.
I said, I'm gonna buy everyone Aperol Spritz, and I invited everyone to like a beautiful cafe in the middle of the city, and Budapest is beautiful city and next to the bridge. And it was also a very beautiful day, very light and warm and everything. And we were sitting at the summer terrace, like outside with this beautiful view and drinking Aperol. And I was with my mom fleeing the war. Uh, Asa, she was also like just escaped the occupation while her parents being occupied. And this guy's picking up someone whose uh, house was bombed. And it was like completely mind-blowing as well. So yeah, when you say how was my mom, you know, every day you kind of endure such a big spectrum of emotions. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and to be completely honest with you, it's like good and bad emotions. It's like not only bad emotions. Of course, you're like scared to death, but in the same time, you feel so alive. It's I cannot
Mm.
explain it.
No, I understand completely. So there had to be a moment where your mom is sitting there and looking at her daughter with such admiration, such like this is my daughter. My daughter knows all these wonderful people. My daughter is taking care of me. That must have been a beautiful moment in the middle of all of this for your mom.
Yeah, I think yeah, we have good relationship. It's just like it's always been like that. We have good relationship with her, and I think at some point she saw that, well, once we left, there's no other way. She has to kind of trust me, and she has to kind of
Yeah.
rely on me. So it's not about like admiration or something, but it's about like me being in charge, of course, just because at least I can Google things and like figure out things
Yeah.
because at least I speak English and know people around. But
Right.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We took
No, it's okay.
this
No, mm. No,
yeah, continue. Frank.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I said continue.
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Artyom and his girlfriend Sasha, our friends, they were going on. We already knew that we are going to Netherlands because our my other friends invited us to stay at their house, and Artyom and Sasha, they were driving their friends to Germany, and they said we can go to Germany all together, sleep at our house, at their parents' house, and then next day we put you in a train and you go to Netherlands, because of course it's easier from Germany to Netherlands
Mm,
than from Budapest. And we were like, okay, whatever, let's go. So we sat in the car and we were drive. It was a really beautiful drive, I would say, through the mountains and everything,
mm,
through Graz and Innsbruck. And
yeah.
then we took a train to Netherlands, and then we arrived to the Netherlands where we are now. But first 3 months we stayed in a little house in the middle of nowhere, I would say. It's a very small village, not far from Utrecht, that is called Austerlitz. And this is basically the first morning, and it's very important picture. So for me, this first morning of our yeah life in Netherlands. This was my mom waking up in this little room. So it's a bedroom and living room. I slept in a living room on a sofa, and my mom, she slept in a room in a bed. And you can see like all the mess and everything, but at least, now we are in a safe place and not on a road anymore. And
Mm.
my friends, they also bought us flowers, tulips, because it was 14th of March when we arrived. And it was already tulip season in the Netherlands.
Ah,
So
okay.
it was very cute of them. And also you can see that, yeah, my mom, she has to do her makeup. She cannot allow herself to be, not looking good or not being put together.
Yeah.
So once we arrived, she immediately started really taking care of herself again. And our
And
friends,
yeah, and now that we're here, we know that we're going to stay for a period of time.
yeah, we knew that we can stay for a while. We didn't discuss the length, but of our stay, but we ended up staying in this house for 3 months, and then we moved to
Wow.
Amsterdam. And
Okay.
they even bought like a flag, and they put it on the house. So my mom, she was like super happy about it, I think. And I just depicted some of our life in in Austerlitz, which was the place where Napoleon's army was staying during the First World War, and that's why it's called Austerlitz.
Mm.
So somehow, no matter where we go, the topic of the war is kind of following us, because right now we are living in a house in Amsterdam. It's a very nice, very central house. But during the Second World War, the Jewish people were hiding in this house from Nazi. So
Wow.
yeah, somehow everything is interconnected, and they say that now we are hiding in this house from Nazi almost.
Wow.
So, but we made good friends with the guys, Hugo and Linus, and we stayed very happily together with them. My mom, she could really make friends with them really well. But then 3 months were gone and it was time to go. And also these pictures were not in the book, and I don't really publish them, but there were so much stuff going on in the background. For example, I had a surgery here in Netherlands because I was like really, yeah, I was really hiding my emotions and it affected my health. And it was the first surgery in my life. And it was like 2 months after we arrived. Or 3 months after we arrived to the Netherlands. So yeah, I don't really talk about it that much because again, this work is not about myself and not about me, but just to give you a little bit of a context,
Mhm.
there was a lot going on also on the background.
Life was going on, right?
Yeah, life was going on. I lost my gallbladder.
Oh, is that right?
And
Yeah. You only share that, any of that if you like. I won't ask you about that.
no, but it's not something horrible. I mean,
Yeah,
it's already gone. So bye bye, my
yeah.
gallbladder. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay. But the big lesson is that you really have to take care of your health and not neglect your emotions as well, because it really shows up in your health. If you don't express your emotions, if you really kind of try to be too tough, too strong, it will show up eventually on some other level, which was my health, for example. And as I told you, when we arrived, we didn't have that much stuff with us, but only after 3 months, look how much stuff we had. Because first of all, everybody was trying to give us something. Also, I bought some stuff for myself. I bought some stuff for my mom. And when we were moving, it was hard to fit everything in a car. So we moved to Amsterdam, and this is a different story because Amsterdam became our temporary home, but I would say that it does feel like home. And also my approach to photographing my mom changes because I focus rather not on her, but like environment, I would say. And I also started doing this repetitive approach where I shoot a lot of images of one scene. Well, this is a conversation about photography, right? So I have to talk about such
Yeah,
things as well. So
And at this point, are you getting, is there any contact with back home? Is there any foreign aid coming your way? I mean, are there any resources that you're able to use while you're refugees now?
what do you mean?
No, is there any place where you could go and they give you like a monthly stipend of, X amount of euros or
No,
anything
they
like that?
they of course give like financial support for refugees, but yeah, and you can also go and receive food or something, but it's like not everyone is using it. Not
Right.
everyone is using these opportunities, yes. But also there are obviously refugee camps, I would say,
Yeah.
and shelters, because if I translate it from Ukrainian, then it would be camp, but it's not a correct word, of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's shelter.
Right.
Um, but we never stayed in a shelter. So yeah, some people I know, they stay there, but I never even been to a shelter, so I don't really know um, how the life is there. But luckily, we live in the house and everything is okay. So
Beautiful.
yeah, these pictures also didn't end up in a book, but I really love them, and I also wanted to show you something more positive. My mom is doing her exercises, which she did for a book, and that's why I call it documentary diary, not a like straightforward documentary, whatever. Also because I think that in the latest period of time, documentary photography changes a lot, but I don't, well, here she clearly posing, right? But when I said I want to photograph her exercising, she was like, oh, I have to do my makeup, la 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 la. So she's a little bit like playing here, but I think once it's kind of clear from the picture that it's not the actual, thing, then it's fine. I mean, I'm not tricking anyone. And you asked who was left behind. So this is my mom's son, Andrei. He lives in our native city, Kryvyi Rih, but he's moving to another city closer to the west, together with his wife, because they are going to have baby very soon. Actually, this month we expect to have a baby. It's my mom's first grandchild, and also it's a first child that was born in our family since I was born. So it's a really big thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is my mom's parents and my mom's father and her friend. So
So when she looks at these photographs, does she remember the stories that she heard from World War II? And is there anything that connects it together? You're just understanding the struggles and everything else?
100%. I mean, her father, he was a soldier in the Second World War, of course, and he went to war when he was really young, and he was basically 17. They were calling people since 18, but there was something with his documents, so he went when he was 17, but luckily he was injured very soon, and
Mm,
he spent a lot of time in hospital.
mm. And
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
he was not killed or severely injured during the Second World War, but he hated the Soviet Union, he hated Russia, he hated everything. He hated the Second World War and the system, I would say. And he also one of the Holodomor survivors. If you know, there was a artificial famine in Ukraine caused by politics of Stalin, and
Right.
he was a young child when there was a artificial hunger in Ukraine. It's called Holodomor, and
Mm,
he knew what was going on, even though he was a child. But it was prohibited to talk about it, otherwise you would be put in prison. And
mm,
like he always wanted to talk about it, but nobody allowed him to talk. Even after the Soviet Union collapsed, he was still kind of, everybody still really didn't allow him to talk about it. And I feel really bad about it because when he died, I was only 12. So I didn't really understand that I have to talk to him about it and that I have to find out all the stories. But even the small stories that he actually managed to tell me, it's only much later I realized how horrifying they are, because
mm,
um, when I was growing up, we also had all these books from Second World War, and everybody had their grandparents who either fought in the Second World War or were children of the war, so-called. They were born during the war.
yeah.
And yeah, it was like so normal. It was like a part of our consciousness, I would say. It was like so normal, that when he was telling me something, I was like, oh, whatever, I read about it already somewhere in the books. I didn't realize, I was not able to realize that this is his story he's trying to tell me, you
Mm.
know, and this is much more valuable than what I can read in a book about someone else, or also because everything was like filtered, polished, etc.,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
So when you talk to a person like my grandfather, and they are telling you the truthful story, and you think, oh, it sounds familiar, I already heard it, then you have to be aware that you heard a much, much more polished story of what they're trying to tell you, and there is actually some wisdom can come out from this conversation, instead of just thinking, oh, it's again about Second World War or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So, did your mother go back to those stories in some kind of reminiscing way to you in what she's living now?
yeah, because she says that throughout her own childhood and young adulthood, the main kind of topic was that the war should not happen again. And
Yeah.
my grandfather, her father, he was a how's it called? A connection officer, you know, like he was working
Communications?
communication officer, but it was like a telephone kind of telephone
Walking.
engine, kind of connecting people, la 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 la. So he was like an engineer kind of,
Okay.
and they had this like telephone at home where you could put it to your ear and you don't really hear anything, but her was always fantasizing of hearing some signs of like, oh, there is another war going to happen. So when she was a
Mm.
child, she was always like listening to this
Uh,
telephone while her father was not at home, and thinking, oh my God, like somebody's coming to take my father. And yeah, and now I don't think that she has flashbacks or something, but of course, she said a few times that my father wouldn't believe it. My father wouldn't, couldn't imagine that it would actually happen. So, it's really sad, you know, that my mom was born right after the war, and the Second World War, and her father was a soldier, and then now there is a war again, and you know,
yeah.
very
So
strange.
her son won't become a soldier because the baby is coming. How did that how did that work?
No, it has nothing to do with the baby, but he's a lawyer, and
Okay.
he's advocate.
Yeah,
How's
and
it called?
you're a
And
lawyer.
and he also, so he participates in a program that for already 15 years or something, that gives this law protection, like a free legislation for people who cannot afford a lawyer. So it's like a
Okay.
state program. So
Yeah, yeah, and
he has his own law firm, but also he participates in that program. And
right.
of course, if lawyers go to fight to the front line, there's not going to be no legislation in the
Right.
country. So they have, for people who already doing it for like certain amount of years, they have they are pre-booked by the country. Uh,
Exempt. Yeah.
so he is not, he's not now in charge to go to fight, but he cannot leave Ukraine, and he would not leave, I think, even if
Right.
he could, because his life is there as well, and he loves his job, and he's very passionate about what he's doing.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we already like on the finish line of the project, and I took 1 year to complete. it, and it's 1 year since we came to the Netherlands.
Right.
And because of the, like, it starts in spring and I finish it in spring, but because of the context, in the beginning, you can't really see the spring at all. So I decided to give a little bit of, yeah, like a proper spring in the end. So I took my mom to the park. We live near the park, so I took her to the park, and we just were hanging out in the park, and she
Wow.
caught this little duckling, and she was really happy about it. So yeah, and then I
Yeah.
also put some.
Your mom has a great spirit. She's happy all the time. I mean, yeah.
Well, not all the time,
Have
but
a
but
great
I
spirit.
think that she does have a great spirit. Yes, 100%. And it's quite inspiring, I think. And it's also, this is one story, but it can be multiplied to the stories of hundreds, thousands of women who left. Because again, if I was taking pictures of myself or talking about myself, it would be ridiculous because I speak English, and in general, I could kind of figure out things. But for my mom, it's obviously much more difficult. And luckily, I'm here, but many people just left without any support. And yeah, it's life, of course, but I also feel quite blessed that she could approach the whole story with such a positive attitude, because otherwise,
Yeah,
um,
it could all be different. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And is the idea when the war ends to go back, or is she ready to really stay and have a new life there? I mean,
No, I
what do
think
you think?
for my mom, it's yeah, she most definitely will go back.
She will.
Most
Great.
definitely. Yeah. But we don't really think in terms of like, oh, what's gonna happen when the war is over, da da da, because first of all, we have no idea when and if it's going to be over and on what terms. And our native city, Krivirich, it was very close to occupation. Then when Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblast, a little bit of Zaporizhia Oblast, when they kind of moved the front line a little bit forward. I mean, deoccupied some territories. It became a little bit better, but in general, our city is quite close to occupation. So I don't want her to risk, or I don't want her to, be in a place under heavily bombardment. And right now, it's not like coming back. It's not something we discussing.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, I had a conversation with my friends, and we were talking about this and that, and like, what if this happens and what if that happens? And then somebody said, well, and we had completely different kind of opinions. And then somebody said, well, the only one thing that we can agree on is that we have no idea what's going to happen next, and it's so unpredictable that every day can turn situation completely around. And like,
Mm.
imagine like Putin dies tomorrow, like what happens, or this happens, and what's then, and or like Trump is elected, or like Harris is elected. It's all gonna be different outcomes. So
Yeah.
planning something is just a delusional, I think, for me
I,
and for.
I'm sure you're right. It is just impossible to predict. Um, and how did you finance printing the book?
How did I finance? Well, I
Yeah.
went into a painful process of crowdfunding.
Okay.
So my book was pre-ordered by a lot of people, and that's how I could found it. And
Okay. Great.
it turned out really beautiful. and I'm very proud of it. And I was able to
Yeah.
involve just amazing collaborator, Edwin van Helder. Here he is. He's an amazing designer, and we are working on new things together now. But when I talk about the book, I always say that it's like half my work, half his work, because without him, I would not be able to do it. But
And
crowd,
where can we buy the book? On your website? People
yeah,
can
just
find it there?
they can just send me a message in my Instagram, and they will find it. They will find me, and I will send them the book.
Okay. All right, Instagram those. Okay. So we will have that up. Wow, what a journey. What a journey. And what's next, Hannah?
What's next? Well, now I'm still really busy with my book because it's going to festivals and it's going to
Right.
different fairs, etc., etc. And I like to talk about it and I like to promote it. I just had a book talk at Unseen, which is a really nice festival in Amsterdam. I also had
Mm.
few exhibitions with this work, and now there is exhibition going on in Breda. So I'm I'm pretty much busy with this work, but already working on completely different topics, not connected to Ukraine, but also like I have 3 projects now going on because this
Wow.
is how my ADHD brain works, I think. I can't focus on
Uh,
one thing, have to
yeah.
focus on few things. But one of them is about
Right.
young Ukrainians who between 16 and 25 who left the war in this age between 16 and 25, and it's rather about like how the war affected the process of their development as humans, because most of them like
Mm. Okay.
they didn't have any teenage kind of normal teenage period because there was COVID first and then the war, and then they left, and complete like their life is completely disrupted, and they didn't have any sufficient education, like nothing, they study online, they receive their diplomas online, and they don't see their friends,
Mhm.
they often don't see their families. So I think it's a very interesting topic because it's like the whole future generation that is heavily affected by the war, but nobody really talks about this generation because they are still kids, and who cares about, well, they are not
Yeah.
kids, they are teenagers, and who cares about teenagers, except
Mm.
their parents. And I have friends here in Netherlands that have crazy family stories. For example, one girl, her mother died when she was 12. Her father died when she was 15. She lived alone. She was finishing her school alone, living alone from age of 15. Then when she was 18, she fled the war. And it's like, it's completely mind-blowing.
How much can a person handle? Mm.
Exactly. And
Mm.
she is very like mature in her head, but she's still a child,
Yeah,
for me, because
yeah,
I could,
for sure.
age-wise, I could be her mother. And when I talk to her, and when I talk to her, I kind of even feel a little bit responsible, to also tell her story. So there are
Yeah.
many people that I'm interested in talking to, and I take their portraits, and I don't really know how exactly I will proceed with this project because I don't want it to be like very complicated with many layers. It's really straightforward kind of project. It's an interview with a portrait. So this is my approach. But I think I would also like to make a publication with it, but I'm still thinking, figuring out what is the best shape for this publication. I don't want to like dig deep in their lives, you know. I just want to really have a portrait and the interview put together, and to kind of acknowledge people that this person exists, what this is what they're going through, and yeah, without any additional
Layers.
details, or
Yeah.
layers.
Yeah.
So this is one project, but others are not related to Ukraine at all.
Okay. And how is your mom?
My mom, she is okay. She is she's very brave, I would say, because to handle like moving to a new country, and she even made such a great friends here, and she doesn't speak English or Dutch, but she somehow can communicate with them. And for
Great.
example, we have one friend, Lydia, who comes to visit her from Austerlitz still. We don't live there anymore for a long time, but she still comes to visit her. And they go for a walk in the park, and then my mom comes back, and she said, "Oh, Lydia has this news and this news, and her daughter is like doing this, and her son is doing this, and her husband." And I'm like, "How did you figure out all of that?" Because and she's like,
What do you
"Oh,
think?
just on fingers." Imagine.
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's very beautiful. And last question, how are you doing? How do how are you dealing with the stress with leaving your home, taking care of your mom? What are you doing for yourself?
for myself, this is actually a good question because um well, I'm focusing on yeah, as I said, I don't plan based on what's gonna happen in Ukraine, but I plan my life based on what I want to do.
Mhm.
So right now, everything evolves around my work now, around my projects. And as I told you already, I'm working on three projects simultaneously now. So I'm really motivated to, finish them and make them the best way possible. But also, I'm studying French because I think it's important for photographer to speak French. And yeah, just living my life, honestly.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you doing this. I know it's late in the night for you, but also you should know whenever you have new work and you want to show, we want you to come back. That would be a high honor for us, and I thank you, and I only wish for you and your mom to both be safe, and hopefully this ends sooner than later, and you can go back home.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's an
Okay.
honor.
No, it's our pleasure, and certainly you and I will be in touch.
Good, good. Let's do.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, dear.
Good night. Bye
Good
bye.
night, dear. Bye.